Have you ever fallen in love with a piece of fabric and you buy it and then you don't know what to do with it, so you add it to your stash that has a whole lot more fabric in there that you don't know what to do with? Well, today I'm going to show you how to build your own quilt kits. Keep watching. Hi, it's Donna Robertson with Fabric Cafe, and today we're going to talk about fabric by the yard. Now, we're known for the gorgeous quilt kits that we put together, and people love it because it makes it so easy for them. But I know that sometimes you are going to walk into a shop or you're going to see something on our website and you're going to fall in love with it and want to know, what can I do with this piece of fabric? So today we're going to talk about how you can build your own quilt kits. And we have Fabric by the Yard on our website, so you'll want to check that out again. Now stay to the very end as we step you through all of this, and then I'll tell you about our special deal that we are offering on Fabric by the Yard. So to start with, of course, all of the things that I'm going to teach you today will be out of one of our books. We have 12 different books to choose from. 10 of them are in print, 2 of them are download only. Now, in each one of our books, we have a display here, that a little legend with 3 boxes, and those go like this. Fabric number 1 is your focus, and then you have 2 more fabrics. You have fabric 2 and 3. You compare those and you'll have a light and a dark. So if you look at the picture in black and white, you can see where the focus goes, where the light goes, and where the dark goes. And that's important whenever you're picking out your pattern, because you want to have the kind of contrast that you need so that you can see the design. So with that in mind, normally what we do is we fall in love with a particular fabric and we want to see the most of that. That's going to be your focus fabric. Now this is a kit that we've actually put together and is for sale on our website, and it's these 3 fabrics put together in this quilt called Crossroads. So this was the focus fabric I selected. It's going to go in the largest block, and then I compare these 2. I get my light and my dark. The light is your background so that it makes the other elements of your pattern just kind of come towards you. This is our number 3 fabric. It's going to be everywhere you see this dark. But this is a cool thing about 3-yard quilts. You can put any fabric in any position. So maybe you look at this and you say, well, that's nice, but that's not my cup of tea. So you could go to our website and you could say, I love this fabric. And you say, I would like this to be my focus fabric. And you can do that with 3-yard quilts because every position uses the exact amount of fabric, 1 yard. So you can move those positions around. So we're going to put this in the focus, and then we will go looking for other things that we have in this area. Now, I would just eliminate right away the red because I'm not as crazy about that with this. Because when I put these 2 together, let's see if my weightlifting is going to work. I always like to go for the hardest ones first. These do not have the same aesthetic. They're both gorgeous fabrics and they're both available on our website, but this might not be what you wanted to use with this. So we're going to take that one away. Now, you've got a light and a dark, and then our focus fabric is kind of dark. So I would look through here and find some things that I think might work better for a light and a dark. So to start with, I like the black that's in this one. So I would probably pick this, and it's really cool because this is also a K fabric and designed so that they would go together very nicely. So I'd say, well, maybe I can put that one in as my number 2 fabric. Now purple's cool, and we've got a purple right here, and I think the color is good, but again, it's not quite the same style of fabric. It's got the little star flower where these are big and cafe. So I'm going to set this one aside because the color is good. Now here's another one. Again, ooh, I like that color with it. The color goes really well. It has some black in it, so that could go with it as well. So this one could be a possibility. So if I were building a kit, I might choose 1 yard each of those 3. But I still have one other piece over here, which just happens to be another cafe, because again, this is not cafe. So we're going to set that over here. And, you know, sometimes a designer just knows what they're doing. They design those fabrics so they go together beautifully. So let's try the buttons from Cafe. And that's great. It picks up this dark purple here, the lighter purple here. It has little touches of green. And so to me, those really do go together well. And then you can put that as your number 3. Now, some people say, well, how do you know if your focus fabric, and you've got a dark fabric and you've got 2 dark, which ones do you use? But the cool thing is, if you follow our formula, put your focus in the number 1 spot, and then you compare these 2 and you get your light and your dark, then what you have is fabric number 3, fabric number 2, and fabric number 1. And you just built your first kit. Next, we're going to talk about the pattern you select for the fabrics you're using. So keep watching. Next up, we're going to talk about choosing your pattern. And we have a couple of items on our website that are free downloads for you to go and check out. And these are just going to be patterns that will help you to see how things are put together on that sheet. And you'll see the rule of 3, the focus, the light, and the dark. And the first one that we're going to talk about is the 10 big blocks Dash Busters. So these all use great big blocks. They're great for big prints. They're also great for the just getting that focus that you want in those big blocks. The other one we have is just a complete instructions or complete listing of our patterns that we have available. Now, when you're looking at this, you'll notice that some of them have a little bit of a gray box. That just simply means that they are individual patterns only. They're not available in a book. So that helps you to be able to select your whether you want to buy a book or whether you want to get a pattern. So those are 2 things that we want you to check out as a free download on our website. Now let's take a look at one of the quilts that we put a kit together on. And this one is going to be so that I can show you placement of fabric. Now, I keep talking about the rule of 3, and when you're putting your own kits together, that is so important. And the first thing you want to do is pick out that fabric that you love, and in this case, this is the one that I loved. I thought that was so pretty, and that is my focus fabric. Now, the light one is just kind of an offset, but it actually helps your focus fabric to show up even better, because when you look up here, you'll look at the focus, and then you'll maybe glance over here, but it wants you to just go over here and look at some more pretty. It's kind of like a resting place. And then the third fabric is the darkest, and that helps to frame each of the elements as well. Let's put that on the table and see the fabric. So this is one of our big block patterns because these are nice size blocks that you can work with, and I do a lot of strip piecing. So if you choose a focus fabric that you really, really like, then you can go and pick out your other 2 so much easier whenever you know these 2 things. First of all, we wanted to accentuate the grays in this because that's kind of a blue gray, and so it was the most dominant color in here, and I just used it as that backdrop for the number 2. Now the number 3 fabric has a little bit of the light color, but we want that to be dark enough so that it will really frame any of the blocks that design that you're doing on your quilt. So that's how easy it is for you to pick your own fabric, or if you just fall in love with this and the way I put it together, here's the kit. It's 8021442 Somerset Blues. Byzantine door is your pattern, and it's available as an individual. It's also available in the book, Quick and Easy 3-Yard Quilts. Now let's look at how you could utilize those same 3 fabrics in some of our other patterns. Another big block one pattern that we have is called Picture Perfect. Picture Perfect is a similar design for this. The blocks are not quite as large as they are in the Byzantine door, but it does the same thing. Once again, it has a big block for your focus fabric, and then you have a secondary block with the dark fabric framing it. Now, when I originally designed this pattern, one of the reasons that I designed it is because I had customers asking me if I had any quilt patterns that worked well with their embroidery machine. And so I came up with this one, and I actually framed the number 2 fabric so that if you wanted, you could do some embroidery in that. We've also heard of people taking the same pattern and doing things like wedding pictures or like birth baby pictures that they could make a quilt to give to the grandmothers. So there's all kinds of things that you can do with this particular one. So if you are building your own kit and you wanted to use the inkjet printing fabrics, you could do that in this quilt and put it in that secondary block. So while you're looking for your fabrics, pick your focus fabric first. Now that's one. Here's another one that we've done. This one's called Through the Window. And through the window, you can really see how the number 2 fabric is the background that really causes that beautiful print. And it is just all over this quilt. Very, very focused, very front and center. And it does look like you're looking through a window. Now, another one that we have is called Heartland. Heartland is kind of an old-fashioned pattern with the churn dash, and I really like this one. In this case, we used the number 3 fabric to border the focus. So when you're looking at your fabrics, you'll pick out your focus, pick out your light and your dark, and then you will be able to recognize where that light is going to go in your quilt and where the dark is going to go. Now up next, we're going to tell you a little bit more about how you can save money with Fabric Cafe and buying fabric by the yard on our website. So keep watching. So I'm still talking about buying your own fabric or using our kits, whichever you prefer. But one of the things I want to encourage you to do is to think outside the box, because I once had a friend that I would make a suggestion and she'd go, well, is it okay if we do that? Like she was looking for somebody, you know, in the sky to roll back and say, you have my permission to put that fabric in that quilt. It doesn't work that way. It has to come up here. So let me show you when I thought outside the box. So this particular one is a patriotic quilt, and I wanted to think outside the box and make a patriotic quilt with florals that would appeal to the women who serve our country. And I have to put a plug in for my granddaughter, who's a lifer in the Air Force, and I'm really, really proud of her. She's just a hardworking girl, and so Felicia, I love you. So this one I had in mind for Felicia because it does have the florals here, and I've designed this great circle, and it looks a lot harder than it really is. But this is thinking outside the box. So let's put that up here. Now I do want to point out to you that whenever we do 3-yard quilts, they're basically 45 by 60. So it's not quite large enough for the requirements of the Quilts of Valor. So we created an add a border sheet, and this is on our website. It is a free download. So you can go to our website and get this, and it gives you instructions for how to figure your measurements. So if you wanted to put more fabric on this quilt and make it a larger quilt, we've done the math for you so that it makes it really easy for you to do. And it's a free download, so be sure to check that out. Now, if you're going to be doing this quilt, let's look at the fabric. And look at this gorgeous, gorgeous floral. And I knew it was a patriotic floral whenever we purchased it. They actually designed it. Moda designed this particular one. And it's a case of just thinking how you wanted to use it. I could have done it and done a patriotic quilt in the regular big block with 2 little blocks or something like that. But I just wanted to think outside the box and do something totally different. And you can do the same thing. So if you see a color or a fabric that you like, go ahead and give it a try in some of these patterns. And the more you experiment, the better you will get. So this is our focus fabric, the number 1. It's going to be one of the stripes, and then it's also utilized in here. And because this is a print, I had to get something very, very subtle for the background. I couldn't use much of a print back here because it would conflict with this. So we did really high contrast on this one so that it would really show off that circle of stars. So that's our number one. Then our number two is that high contrast that I'm talking about with this particular quilt. So if you're picking out a white, it can have a little bit of a print, but don't do too much or it'll conflict with that star. And then the number three, or the blue, has a subtle dot on that as well. Now you could get a little bit more print with your blue if you're picking it out as well, like if you wanted to do stars or something like that. Okay, this one is 8021751, Betsy's Garden. The name of this pattern is Freedom, and Freedom is not available in a book. It's only available as an individual. Now, we talked about that add a border, and you could go and purchase a 1 yard piece of fabric off of our website if you wanted, but we have something else that's really cool. We have end of bolt specials. We cut hundreds, thousands of yards of fabric every year. And even though the bolt might say 15 yards, by the time you cut out your 14 kits, you usually have just a little bit more left over. So we have something that we call end of bolts. And they'll be labeled and they'll tell me how much is in there. It's 32 inches. But here's a little secret for you. If there's more than 32 inches, we give it to you free. We discount these, and it's a great way to add a border. And they come in either 32 inches, 28 inches. Here's another 32 inch. And the really cool thing about this is you can actually put this number of the kit. So whatever kit you're making, you can put the little asterisk and put that number in our search box, and it will tell you if there's an end of bolt available for you. So you can check that out as well. But you don't have to just stick with one of the companion fabrics from that kit. You can also maybe choose something and put a different color border on there as well. You can see these dark, deep reds in this one, and then that light blue here. So use your imagination, think outside the box, and add a little bit more fabric. If you want 1 yards of some of these, they are available too. When we have it, we always put it up on the website for you. Okay, let's put this over here. Now the next one that we're going to talk about is, we're going to be talking about this quilt, and we're going to be talking about binding. It's one of those little things that we all either love or don't want to talk about, but we're going to talk about it. So this one is called Engagement, and I love this. I love this for two reasons. I designed the quilt and I designed the fabric. So both of those are two good reasons for me to love this. You know, I love all my children. Okay, so remember I showed you those end of bolts specials? This one would be the same type of thing. You could actually do something different on your bindings as well. Now, when we created these patterns, we created them to be economy quilts. We wanted to give you the biggest quilt we possibly could in that pattern, but only use 3 1-yard cuts of fabric. And in order to do that, I chose to do what I call the economy binding. And you can look at this and see that it's just a tiny little binding, but it is so pretty. I love this binding. I use it on all of my quilts. Some people say a single fold binding just won't hold up, but I have not found it to be a problem. I've told this story before, and that is that I have what I call my hearth quilt now. It started out as a sofa quilt. I used it, I washed it, my cats loved it, they always slept on it. And then after a while, it was just starting to look tired, and I wanted a new sofa and a new quilt, so I did both. And I folded the first quilt up and folded it up, and it's on the hearth. The cats still sleep on it, and it gets ash on it and stuff like that, so it has to be washed a lot. And that was made in 2008, and that binding is still just fine. So I feel like that if you can give it a shot, you'd like that too. But let's say you really want a double fold binding instead of a single fold binding, and you can do that, but you need a 1/2 yard. Great place to go and get that end of bolt special. But another way to deal with it is the flange binding. Now we've shown this before and people love it. And I have to admit I like it too. Not just because it gives me it would give me a double fold, but it still is a very pretty binding and it adds a little bit more interest. So this is what you do. When you read the pattern, it tells you to cut a 1 1/4 inch strip for the economy binding. It would end up looking like this. Then to do the economy binding, the flange binding, you need a 1 1/2 inch. So 1 1/4 and 1 1/2. You are going to sew those two pieces together like this. And so they're sewn here. And then you press it open and you can really see here the difference in the strip. So the 1 1/4 and then the 1 1/2. The 1 1/2 is larger. So this is why it's larger. When you take those two pieces and you press it and you put your raw edges together like you were doing a double fold binding, look at this wonderful little piping that you get right along there. Got a good shot of that, Justin? So they can see that piping right along there. Now, when this is sewn to the quilt, you are going to get a look like this. So let's put this over here. So where this one has the orange flower and then the white, this one has the orange flower and it has that little bit of piping that's shown right here. It's gorgeous and it just adds a little bit of interest. Now another cool thing is you can do either of them in a machine stitched manner, but this one is even better for machine stitching and I'll show you why. This one's hand stitched, so we sewed it on and then we to the front and then we hand stitched it here. This one is sewn on the machine and you just top stitch it right here and it just goes like a stitch in the ditch. You can't even see it. It just kind of disappears into the quilt. So it's a faster way to go as well. So when I created these, I did it because I wanted a 1 1/4 so that I would save fabric, because it took a 1/4 yard to do this. It takes a 1/2 yard to do a double fold. But now you can just buy an extra 1/4 yard of fabric, maybe an end of bolt special, and make this flange binding as well. So let's look at this fabric. Focus fabric is this great orange. It goes here. I like to call this kind of a tangerine orange. So pretty. And then this one is the secondary fabric, and I like to say my line is called the Enchanted Garden, and I say we grow love, joy, and peace. And we have that in the white, and it's creating that background so you can see all of these elements. And the third, or the darkest, is actually here. So you can see what a dynamic quilt pattern this one is. The number is 8021665, Sunkissed. Engagement is the name of the pattern. It's available in Quilts on the Double, which is one of our newer books, so it's not available as an individual, but you can get an alternative, and that would be it's a breeze. It would make a great looking quilt. Now, we've told you about this. We've told you about the special of the end of bolts, but guess what? We have one more special. Until December the 28th, 2021, we have 10% off of all open stock fabric and the end of bolt specials. And you will use the code FABRIC10. Now, if you want to know about codes and you want to know about free shipping, you need to sign up at fabriccafe.com and sign up for our newsletter, and we'll send you periodic newsletters with specials available just for you. And you'll want to be sure to subscribe so that you can get notification. Click on the little bell and here with YouTube, and we will let you know every time we put a new YouTube video up. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.